I'm gonna start the recording. I'm going to kick things off. So welcome everybody. It is February. I hope everyone's semesters are off to a nice start. It's been a pretty chaotic past few weeks, but I know as staff we're all taking it in stride and doing our best to do our work and to do it well. And we're here to help try and do that and make campus better. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Provost Clemens, who's here for our traditional roundtable. We're so glad to have you here, Chris, and looking forward to hearing some updates and chatting. So take it away.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you all for being here. I will not take a lot of time because I know there may be many questions. We have seen, I think, a greater flurry of memos than in any time since I became provost 3 years ago. I know some of the memos are new, some are more familiar, and I'm thinking now of the ones that our fine Vice Chancellor for Research is sending out. I want to acknowledge that amongst our faculty, staff, and students, there may be precarious feelings because much of our funding comes from federal sources, and we've seen some wild swings in our expectations. Initially, a fairly aggressive freeze on what would have been $1 billion or more for us, which was then, relaxed into a much smaller set of categories. I want to make everyone aware that there are indeed grant agencies and particular funding sources that have been paused and perhaps even removed. So it's not that we've gone from maximal impact to zero. We've gone from maximal to smaller. And just be aware and be sensitive that for folks who are paid on these sources, this is not just an intellectual or a political feeling. It's about whether they will continue to be able to work and be paid. So it's quite serious on the ground for those individuals affected. And I just want to acknowledge that that we all share in some way in that precarious feeling, but there are those who are being impacted far more than I am, and maybe the majority of us are. We also have a new news this morning. We did receive the memo that you've probably heard about in the news. I'm happy to talk about that. It's new enough that we're having discussions. Even today, I will meet with the Chancellor about that. And this is the one having to do with federal research and the content and the nature of what's required in our curriculum. So I think that's more than enough going on. I know there are many, many good things happening as well. In this office, we are very pleased about to be able to give out the grant program that we made for term faculty. We were calling it a leave program, but the money can be used either for teaching buyouts or for research projects. This is something we long hoped to do. There's an RSA program that applies to tenured faculty. We now have one for term faculty that's constructed a little differently. But we're going to be able to give out more of them than we initially thought. And so that's coming soon. We're working on distinguished professors and senior leave awards, and those will be going out in the next month or so. And so our activity, and we're also going to be selecting the second cohort of Provost Distinguished Faculty Leaders. So on the good side, our Faculty Affairs Office is doing the Elevate program that we've talked about here, and in Faculty Council, they've launched new aspects, new elements of this, and we're about to be able to give out and acknowledge and reward a whole lot of very fine faculty through those faculty affairs programs. So I'm going to stop because I know you may have other issues, and you may even have issues I haven't heard of. Things are happening at a rate where I almost need a morning briefing from someone on what has happened. Let me turn it back to Katie and take your questions, and then.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for that update, Provost Clemens. I'm going to open up the floor for questions. Feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, and we'll go through questions. Arlene.
Do we, as a university, have a way to push back on some of these restrictions? I'm not talking about the individual employees because that's other stuff, but as a university.
I think if you're talking about the federal restrictions, we are doing that work through our Federal Affairs Office, and we're not doing it alone. We're a member of the AAU, as you're well aware, the ALPU. These are public universities that are land grant. Those are both trade organizations for the best universities in America, best research universities, and their lobbying organizations who try to craft language and responses and meet with congressional leaders and other leaders in Washington. Lee has been to Washington maybe twice. Penny Gordon-Larson was in Washington talking to the folks there. And so at the federal level, we have strong engagement, and we have strong engagement alongside other universities who are in those organizations, as well as on our own. With the state and the system office, the main point of contact is, of course, the chancellor, who reports up to Peter Hans, who has a board of governors. We also have a board of trustees. And I believe we're just starting conversations about some of the things that came in the memo you've seen in the news, and I'm happy to address. It's too early for me to say where we are on that and exactly what will happen in the conversations. But it is an open line of conversations, and we will be having meetings to discuss what the strategy would be. The deans met yesterday. Obviously, a lot to understand, apprehend, and comprehend before we develop strategies for how we respond. And I always think what we do best is, I hope, argue and persuade based on facts and evidence. That's what we say we train students to do. That's what we do as faculty. That's what staff do in this forum. And I think we can model that while we make our own ideas known to folks and be sure that we stay in conversation.
Matthew?
Thanks. Hi, Chris. Matthew from the Gilling School.
Yes.
You may have just addressed this while my hand was up, but I mean, I'm wondering specifically about the thing that was in the N&O came up, late last night about DEI, what no longer requires students to take gen ed courses that feature DEI, which, like a lot of things that sometimes come out about Carolina or about, they tend to be more undergrad focused, and that's not really where, most of Gillings is. So I just wonder, with the other professional schools, do you know if there's any, any, not statement, but any sort of reaction or anything that'll be coming out to sort of clarify both internally and externally what, what this means? I saw that Andrew Tripp said something, but I don't know if there's going to be anything more.
Yeah, thank you. That's the exact question I hope that we'd be able to discuss. We received the memo late Wednesday afternoon. It invokes some of the uncertainty around federal research dollars and the requirements that go with them. We, of course, want to keep our federal research dollars, so that's a good thing. My understanding of it today is that it does not change the content, style, methodology, or topics in any course. So individual instructors will be able to teach as they teach now. But I do think it seeks to make at least one of the focus capacities in the gen ed curriculum optional. And there may be conversations about what can be required in other places. But it does mention the grant of broad waivers where the content is germane to the professional degree or the major. The one waiver not available is for general education. And so I would say the one point that may be contentious or need discussion or require faculty to come together is, what is the status of our authority as a faculty to require a general education focus capacity that we are being told to make optional under this memo, and that's the point of conversation I think we'll have first. Now we have a gen ed curriculum that was debated, discussed, and approved 3 years ago. It is in revision right now. It is not that we think it's perfect. We are trying to reform it in various ways ourselves because as you live with the curriculum, you learn about it. And I think, I personally am open to all kinds of conversation about the framing and structure of those focus capacities. But I think the problem will be if faculty see that they're not being invited to a conversation, but rather into compliance with something. So I think that's the tension that we're likely to be working with. And I don't think it's a bad place to be if that's the conversation we need to have in this moment, because it is our duty to teach people what we do, why we do it, and the reasons for it. And I hope to get into alignment with folks at both at the NC General Assembly and in the system office, so that we all understand best what is best for the people of North Carolina and agree on how to proceed to do that. So I'm always starting from a position of attempting to bring things into good alignment. But it's too early for me to react specifically. The Chancellor will, of course, be issuing guidance based on the memo at some point. The memo makes clear that it is the Chancellor's authority here, and so it is the Chancellor who I will seek to advise and who I'm going to bring people like Beth Morocco and others, into conversation with as part of my role as Provost. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks. I guess the anxiety is around the timing. Like when do you think you'll be able to, hear something? But appreciate the answer, and appreciate the effort.
Yeah, I think I feel all of your anxiety and probably more, and I do want this to move fairly quickly. So I will be trying to help move us along into a place where at least have understanding of any operational things we need to do now, and then what are the conversations that will unfold on a more thoughtful and elegant timescale.
Rebecca.
Good morning. I am actually driving, so this may have been stated in the chat, so my apologies if I'm duplicating, but I'm not reading the chat while driving. I really do appreciate the update, and as much as it annoys my family when I say words matter, and that word that you just used is not the word that I think you want to use. I do appreciate the idea of coming into alignment. I am the product of a liberal arts education from UNC-Asheville. So broadening one's mind is a very important concept to me for undergraduates. And I do feel, having worked in higher ed since '98, continually constrained by the Board of Governors and the General Assembly in terms of what we teach, how we teach, and that it's becoming much less about faculty-driven education than it is about politically driven education. And so while I truly appreciate that the idea of coming into alignment, I just wanted to state that I truly view it as coming into compliance. I struggle with the idea of ever being able to see myself in alignment with the direction that we are headed. I will certainly, support what the university chooses to do and how they choose to respond. But I'm really at a point where I feel that this is forced compliance and not alignment.
Thank you, Rebecca. I don't disagree with anything. Well, I disagree with one point you made, but it's a minor point. I don't disagree with anything you said in its substance. Of course, a lot of university life is about compliance around travel, around financial obligations. When it starts to touch the core business of the faculty, that is when the word compliance starts to be a word we're not used to hearing, because faculty have the responsibility to craft their courses in the way their scholarship dictates, and also to craft a curriculum in their own collective wisdom, and then to stipulate that and to say that all students have to participate in the elements of that curriculum. And so I think I've clearly stated what is at stake there. And when I say alignment, I didn't mean that we would shift into alignment with every proposition of those who want us to comply, but rather we would persuade them to shift in our direction so that our expertise, which they obviously trust when they send us funding, becomes their expertise, that they understand what we're trying to do, and approve of it in as much as
Thank you.
they can. Yeah. The one thing I disagree
No,
with,
thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, I will say the one thing I disagree with, it's an important point, is that I do not believe that faculty teaching and scholarship is completely separate from political teaching now. In other words, you drew this division between politically based teaching and scholarly based teaching. And I think that line itself is not one the university has maintained within the classroom for very good reasons. But there are, in the end, tough conversations that result from teaching the whole person and the whole set of subjects. And I'm ready for us to have them.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you for your perspective. All of our perspectives are going to be necessary, and I do want to hear them because they help refine what I say. Because I'm often in the room without any of you there, and I need your help.
Well, I'm glad you're in the room. I do
Yeah,
appreciate that you are there.
Yeah, most of the time, not always, but thank you.
We know staff are always around to help, so.
Staff are often in the room and have to be reached out to and consulted because their perspectives may be invisible at times when we should be making them visible. So I'm really happy to hear that point of view as well, Katie, and I'll try to remember that that we're not in a caste system in which only faculty have strong feelings about this.
All right, next up, Megan.
Hi, speaking of a staff perspective, here I am. I just want to say that from what I've gathered recently, executive orders, all the ones that have been passed down, excluding the ones with federal funding for research, but all of the other ones that have been passed down, and you did kind of touch on, we don't have to comply with all of them, but it seems like we are kind of complying. UNC is complying with all of these, and from like a higher education perspective, wouldn't it be like better for us to push back against those? Like, if we're not going to, then who else will? You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. I think it's not so bright a line, and so what I understand is not even every federal agency is hearing the executive orders in the same way, and so in our funding mix we have numerous different agencies. Some agencies have paused some grant giving or grant disbursement based on executive memos. Other agencies reading that same memo have not paused anything. So I don't think it's uncommon to have this period of uncertainty when things change rapidly. And I can give you an analogy, which I think is useful. When we lost the SFFA, the Students for Fair Admission case, we had to go through enormous parts of our operation and ask questions about what was legal, what was not. The discipline for not complying would have been in more lawsuits, and they were very expensive. And we had to make judgments around risk, and eventually each one of those judgments, and I will say this, both proudly and as a compliment to how this university operates, I was allowed in each case to make the final judgment, and I did increase our appetite for risk in ways that I was warned about and decided that were worthwhile for our operation. For instance, disbursing scholarships that are still given out based on protected categories when we are not the selector of the scholarship. Those were things I felt we simply must do, even though they had some small risk. So we're in the same situation. Each agency is trying to decide how much risk they want to take on in the disbursement of federal funds. And we have to decide collectively how much risk the institution wants to take as a recipient of funds that might be threatened. And that will settle out. I think that will become clear as we have time. This most recent memo, however, came from the system office. So it's not a campus level decision. It's a statement about what we should be doing. And we have to decide how we're going to respond and how we're going to pass that onto the campus. And the memo was very explicit that the chancellor, in consultation with the faculty, will be the person who has to make the final judgment. So it won't be, as it was in SFFA, my decision, it will be his. Of course, I will advise with our team of fine people.
Thank you. I was about to say, since you're in the room with him, can you ask him, to stop?
I will make the point you just made. He's very smart. I think he appreciates it already, but nothing like making it explicit. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I actually had a question. I'm going to hop in front of Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. So there's been a lot of grassroots efforts that I'm hearing about across campus to produce some materials and resources for students, staff, faculty, et cetera, across campus to know what to do should federal officials show up on campus, ICE officials in particular, I'll name it. There's a lot of anxiety right now around campus, around the fears of that potentially happening. And I know from a staff perspective, a lot of us manage spaces and would not know what to do or how the university expects us to respond absent communications coming directly from the administration. I think it's important that we share those resources and materials with employees, faculty, staff, and our students across campus to know exactly what is allowed and what is expected of us. And not only, you know, towing the line and kind of complying with things, but also protecting our students. So I think it's really critical that we come out from centrally and provide these resources as opposed to all of us trying to like scrounge around and find the resources ourselves. I think that's a gap that I'm looking to address.
Thank you, Katie. I'll respond in two ways. First, about a population that you weren't talking about. I mean, you were, but you included as a subgroup. For those who are here on visas and international scholars, they are getting updates on their situation straight from Global without campus-wide announcements. For the rest of us who are worried about a larger demographic, not only international scholars, but perhaps students and others in our community who may not have documentation, I can say these things. First, you know, UNC Police is not an enforcement organization of any kind for immigration and would not be participating in any actions around that. That does not mean that there aren't other agencies that would seek to perhaps come to our campus. That requires, of course, a subpoena, and it requires process. And so, you know, we know how to engage with that process. We actually don't share records under FERPA, you know, except by court order. And I don't think we even know immigration status. That's not something that we know about, folks. So in terms of how we might cooperate, it's very limited. You know, in terms of what each person needs to know how to do, there is a document, and I understood it was being updated that gave the kind of advice you're talking about, what to do if someone were to appear in your class, what would be your response? I think it's being updated. I'll inquire as to whether that's going to be disseminated more broadly. I haven't looked at it. It lives on a website that I think one can find, but I'm not even sure where it is at this point. So that's a question I will bring to leadership and ask, can we have a more structured, visible memo that gives guidance to folks? I can't comment on what I think the likelihood is that we'll be facing such a thing. I think it's down on the list compared to things I know are already happening that we're trying to deal with. But I don't want to diminish it, because it is. I know people are feeling it and worried about it. So let me inquire as to when we might have some.
I know there's a lot going on, but I think it would reassure a lot of folks across campus if we saw that communication coming from our administration and sent out broadly. I think it would send a message that I think is important right now to alleviate some of those concerns. And I know staff are the boots on the ground folks that would likely encounter a situation like this should it happen. I mean, it may or may not, but should it happen, staff are likely going to be in somewhat a capacity of having to handle that situation. So, yeah, thank you. Sarah.
And this is going to be in keeping with your comments, so no worries, Katie. Yeah, and thank you for raising the issue of sharing resources. Yes, I work at the business school, and we just a few days ago got that document, and it only went out to select members, which, a couple of things come up for me around that. One is the lockdown of Polk Place and leaving staff out. And are we having another one of these moments where we're not trusting each other? And what kind of culture is that going to create? And I know that, well, at least I'm choosing to believe that that was not the intention here. This was just like it hasn't made its way around, or it wasn't as widely available in some spaces. And that's understandable. We know that we struggle with broader communication. But I also do want to name that the silence from the deans, even just with reassurance or sharing these types of documents, is a statement. It feels like a statement of its own. And it's creating a sense of uncertainty and lack of support. And I said this in prior meetings or with other groups, but just to be really, really clear about this, as a communications person, it is not always the expectation to solve a problem with every communication. Sometimes, especially in times of tumult, chaos, overwhelm, one of the most important things that you can do as a leader is let your employees know that you see the struggle they are experiencing. And that's it. Some of us really just need to know that we are not the only ones drowning in the uncertainty and the fear right now. And so actually hearing you say, oh yeah, I'm experiencing a lot of the same things, surprised and pleased me, not because I want you to be frustrated, but because of that shared humanity piece. I think it's really important, and it's something that several of us feel that these executive orders are meant to disrupt. They are meant to prevent us from seeing each other as human, as fallible, and as scared. And so I, in addition to, yes, please share resources, would also like to just gently ask that we, in these documents or conversations or meetings, when we are talking about this, we try to continue bringing in that narrative of seeing one another and seeing our shared struggles. And the last thing I will say, because I did walk by the student protest outside of South Building the other day, was that students are also saying that one, the lack of communication or comment does create a certain type of culture on campus, but that culture, in addition to the statement made by the chancellor about complying with ICE rather than following federal guidelines, or I don't know and I'll check with counsel, that created a sense of real fear. Not because there are so many undocumented students, but because we are seeing that it doesn't matter your actual status. These organizations that are going out in force right now are targeting based on what you look like, and your actual status will come later. And that is terrifying for a beautifully diverse and exciting and inclusive campus like we have built. So I do just also want to name that, status aside, people are still scared, right? Like, it does not matter if you are a US citizen, for how long, through which path. What is happening across our country right now, while it feels a little distant, also feels deeply personal and deeply historic. We have seen this play out both in other countries and our own through specific populations. And so this is truly terrifying. I appreciate Elizabeth's correction of not just scared, terrifying. And that impacts work. If we need to bring everything back to the dollar, people are distracted, are distraught, are confused, are concerned, are nervous about what to say and who to say it to. So I just say all that to bring it up. Again, no solution necessary other than communicate as a human. And if you'd like to respond, I know that was a lot, sorry.
No, thank you, Sarah. If you see me losing my humanity, please let me know, because I struggle sometimes about whether this job will do things to me that I prefer not happen. And let me say about my deans, they struggle with the same thing. We have had a lot of change and churn in our communications strategy and staff. And the deans sometimes are hesitant because we did go to a much more centralized model. And we've gotten into a posture where let's wait for the statement that we can, that we can disseminate. But then there are times when they need to speak, and I think they feel some uncertainty. So I'm going to go back to them and make sure we have that conversation, and that what you just said is something they understand too. These are kind of one by one decisions that folks have to make each day in the presence of a great deal of sometimes uncertainty and then them not knowing exactly what their charge is around communications because it was more centralized in the recent 2 years than it had been before. I do want to follow up a couple of ICE things that came through the chat because I realized I had talking points that were given to me with facts in them. We do not track or keep lists of undocumented students. That doesn't mean we don't sometimes know that. If we do know an immigration status, it is FERPA protected, and we have a strong commitment to uphold FERPA and would not share that without a court order or subpoena. The most important thing you can know to help students and others at this point is there may be those who are worried about their directory information. That is, we have a directory, people put their addresses in, those addresses are public. It is possible to make your directory for a student to make their directory information private. I think it's also possible for staff. We have to have these on hand, but the registrar can add a privacy flag to students' records that keeps them from having a public address if people are interested to know how to do that. So that's an important action that we can take. The other points I had already made, but I'll just reiterate that if someone comes to campus, because UNC police are not involved in enforcement of immigration, and because they sort of work for the university, if I were faced with something, I would call the university police. The university police know the operational procedures that have to be followed, and I feel that they would do their job in a protect and defend campus kind of way, according to what they understand about law enforcement. So they would know how to, for instance, tell that something is a valid warrant or that something is a valid subpoena. So thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. There's a lot there, and I completely get what you're saying.
Other questions for Provost Clemens? Hot seat this night, Chris.
I'd like to give my encouragement. I've been thinking a lot about leadership and what it would look like in a time or a set of times like this, because every time we're dealing with one time, the next time rolls in the next 5 minutes of news. And I sympathize. I'm appreciative. The Office of the Vice Chancellor of Research stepped right in because they had to. For one thing, people were like, should I have this patient come in today for this federally funded project? And should I not bother to collect data? They stepped in very quickly, the OVCR, and escalated that. Like, if you are told by anybody to change anything you are doing, do not stop what you're doing and escalate directly to us. And I thought that was a good example of leadership. So I appreciate that. But again, I wouldn't even be able to guess. I'm not naturally the kind of person that gets really careful with words to see what's going on first before I risk losing any ground. I'm a very, feeling forward person and very reactive. So I appreciate people that are able to not be that way while they look for stability, strength, and options. I know that another thing communicated to us by the OVCR was that we're one of a number of states that are already actively in a lawsuit pushing back on some of this. And when I say some of this, understand I'm in the clinical research world and I'm in the federal research funding world. But I want to pivot back and say that was good leadership from OVCR. Then there was a lot of talking about how, and we're so proud because we have all these dollars and we're the recipient of all these dollars. And somewhere staff got lost in the shuffle of that as a description of priority. So up in the chat, I did appreciate, Chris, that you are very inclusive of that language and not accidentally and not contrivedly, that you are talking to the employee forum. This is not faculty. This is not students. We work with them. We work because of them, but we are the staff that do 3 jobs at a time. And we're concerned for this place. We're concerned for our ideals and why we're here. And we're concerned for the dollars. We're concerned for our jobs. And it's very stressful. So anytime leadership is reaching out and communicating from the top up, the top down, whatever, inclusive of the fact that there are a lot of really strong, good people here wanting to do the right thing and believing in the right thing. But that it's stressful looking at all this and feeling such a lack of control and needing answers that we cannot always get. Compassion for us in these roles, I hope, is part of every single communication.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I will strive to do that.
I appreciate that you already have.
Yeah, 2 things to say. I love the staff, of course I do. But I'm also pragmatic. And when I got here, and I tell people this all the time, if you want to succeed, get to know the staff. If you want to succeed, understand that getting things done relies upon the staff. And so it's both a deep love for all of you and a concern for you, and also a very pragmatic approach. You make the university run. I don't get very far if I don't both appreciate you and understand that my relationship with you is the key to our mutual success. So
I have an addendum I want to say to what I just said, because now I
Yeah.
realize I left something out.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in the OVCR presentation, with that being a little like, well, when are they going to talk about staff? We've gotten great directives about the difference between wearing our professional hats and talking and taking them off and saying what we think. And I found that encouraging. We had to be told, remember when you're wearing your business hat, your job hat, but go forth freely once you get off work and please say whatever you want. At the end of the meeting I was just referenced, they opened it up to questions. And I swear our leaders seemed to feel a sense of relief that we had asked tough questions that they then needed to answer. And that made me feel so much better than just hearing about our dollars. It was wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm always sensitive that, for instance, this and other meetings are public meetings as well, and I never know if media are present. So my behavior is often modulated by that in some ways, but hopefully not too much.
We appreciate you, Chris. Sarah, is that a remnant hand or is a new question? I think we have time for one more.
No, sorry, my bad.
No, you're good. Just making sure.
Well, look,
ahead.
I'll come back. Maybe Katie, I don't know what my usual cadence is here, but given the things that are happening now,
Yeah.
I'm happy to make myself available more frequently if that's something that would be helpful. I do feel there'll be greater certainty going forward. It won't always be the certainty we wanted, but it will be less disruption and more understanding. And in those places where it's not to our liking, I believe we can always have a conversation and in some cases do even more. So I'm happy to hear those suggestions.
Thank you as always, Chris. We really appreciate your updates and you being here and willing to converse with us and proceed in this uncertain world. So thank you so much.
Thank you for all that you do.
All right, folks. Well, with that, I'm going to turn to the next portion of our agenda. Thanks so much, Provost Clemens. We are going to have an update from Rick Wernoski, who's here from Operational Excellence, to provide some kind of updates. I know that in December, you guys put out an annual report and love to hear some about that and all the fun things you guys have going on moving forward. So turn it over to you.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for having me. Again, Rick Wernoski, Associate Vice Chancellor for Operational Excellence. And it's been a while since I've been here in front of the group, and Katie and I stay in touch. But I did want to very quickly just kind of give you a sense of our office. Operational Excellence is, I started the office back in 2018. We are now housed out of the Chancellor's office with a mission of being a catalyst for change and a champion for transformation in support of the mission of teaching research and public service of the university. And in doing so, trying to implement sustainable transformational change and opportunities for new growth. And our vision is to be a premier strategic consulting internal group to both within Carolina, but also across the Academy of Higher Education. And a number of us are connected across national organizations. I currently serve as president-elect for the Network for Change and Continuous Innovation. I'll assume the role of president in July. We have some guiding principles, and some of you have been engaged with us in different ways where we bring together the community. We feel like we are a very decentralized community at times, but we bring together the community in a structured and collaborative and transparent process to empower individuals to drive change across the organization through a kind of this mindset and a culture of continuous improvement. So kind of what is our scope? We plan and execute executive level projects. So that means when Chris or the chancellor reach out to me, then we're responsive to what is a leadership priority at that time and support that. Where we started and where we still do a lot of work is transforming university-wide administrative operations and creating an opportunity for all of you to be involved in that process, and again, empowering you to drive the change. Kind of an early question of me is, how are you going to be able to manage all of this, the queue that's out there? And so the idea is to develop a continuous improvement competencies across campus, and we do that through some trainings. I'll talk about that briefly as well. The most recent addition to kind of our portfolio is strategic planning, and we have been working, we're currently piloting that, and we have been working with a school right now in helping build out their strategic plan. Also in another area of health affairs, where we're bringing together some health affairs deans and coming up with strategy around one of their rural health initiatives. So we start with kind of project definition, and we think about what the problem is and scope that problem to a project. We come up with solution design, identification, and then go through implementation and change management of that. Sometimes, as I said, sometimes we don't have the ability to have a full OE project, so we will do some advising or facilitation. That's also when people will reach out to us and ask for our assistance. And then again, our training is an opportunity. I talked about kind of at the university level, typically that's where we're doing it. We have grown over the 6+ years, but we're still a smaller team and trying to manage everything across campus. So we created this program called an Embedded Transformation Manager, where we partner with schools, and schools have individuals within their school. They pay for the position, but they're a part of our OE team, and they work on priorities just in that school that are directed by the dean of that school. But they then have, instead of being an N of one in the school, they have the opportunity to have thought partnership and kind of the tools in our tool belt, the methodologies and such. And so currently the dental school, the college, and the School of Nursing are all participating in that. So we have 3 embedded transformation managers across those schools. So that's just a little bit of background. And I'll talk, Katie asked again a little to kind of give an update on some of the work that we've done and where we're headed. So some of the projects over the 2024 period of time, we worked initially, you heard a lot about the Chancellor's priorities of enrollment, Gen AI and applied sciences. And we were the group that helped facilitate those conversations that came up with reports that were submitted on August 1st to the Chancellor. And there's been some progress in different ways around those reports and next steps around those reports. We also have been doing a lot of work on faculty hiring, and I think I saw Linc on here. He's been a wonderful partner there, and the idea was to look at improving efficiency and transparency of the faculty hiring process, to streamline recruitment, for position creation, to offer acceptance. So we have 8 different solutions that have been rolling out or will roll out beginning in November, some more in January, and then our last will be a faculty hiring search tracker that will be rolled out in the summer of 2025. Included in that is a new faculty hiring survey, a faculty hiring playbook, if you're familiar with the staff hiring playbook that we did back in 2018. So a very well-defined, transparent process that kind of outlines that. We've also had some faculty hiring position guides, updated some salary fields in the hiring proposal, provisional hire, EPARs to ensure onions, just to give some examples of that. But again, a very collaborative approach. We've also been working in space and space management, and both on the governance side and the optimization side of it, identifying guardrails and structure around an annual process for requesting space. We're now currently looking at, and that governance has now, it started with administrative space and has now rolled out to all other spaces as well, research, clinical, classroom on the governance side. We're now looking at space optimization and utilization, again, focused on administrative side, just to kind of get a sense for where we are in the use of our space across campus. There was a memo that was sent out by Chris earlier this week with data to leadership around some of the data that has been pulled together around space utilization for a next conversation. Obviously, since COVID, we have kind of changed the way that we work on campus and see opportunities to be a little bit more efficient in that work. We had a project around the new student registration experience. Kind of high summary there is first years, giving first year students the knowledge and the resources needed to kind of navigate first course registration experience. In the past, they didn't always have a requirement to have an advisor meeting, but prior to that, and we put process in there. There was, again, updated support with advising appointments, course registration module to complete prior to advising, and then updated resources for the first year students. We just finished up again another project and facilitation for the provost around student success. The idea behind that was, how do we come up with a seamless student success experience for undergraduate students? And kind of guided by this, and I think these are Chris's words, kind of no wrong door approach, so that in a sense that if somebody had a question and they went somewhere, that they would always kind of have the answer. So there are proposed solutions that are now in front of the provost as of last Friday, and there will be conversations and kind of direction there somewhere around improved software solutions, course availability reviews, student lifecycle communications, audit of student success systems, just to name a few. We did work in the credit-bearing certificate space to establish a framework for campus services tailored to non-degree certificate students at UNC. And we came up with, again, a playbook to kind of map that out and outline the services, a fee alignment of what those students should be kind of have access to, and then kind of recommendations around budgetary support and service sustainability. We had a fun project to work and kind of capture the thoughts around the Tar Heel bus tour that has lived in the heads of a few over the years. And Christy Hurd had asked us to work with Lynn on identifying the process. And so we've kind of outlined that process of all aspects of that process, so that regardless of who's kind of managing that process, it'll be something that they can refer to. So those are a lot of the projects, and I kind of rushed through them, of things that we have done in the past. In the past year, some of the things that we're just beginning and getting started on are in a kind of a follow-up to what I mentioned of a chancellor's priority around enrollment growth. We are now, I'm working closely with the provost on preparing for 500 new students to come in the fall, and what that support looks like across all the different areas that would be required to kind of build a different infrastructure, not necessarily just more FTEs, but also build a business infrastructure that's scalable to the growth in areas like housing, dining, advising, what those types of support areas. We are also planning and kind of aligning to that is looking at classroom space and how to best utilize classroom space across the general purpose classrooms and as well as all other spaces across campus when it pertains to classroom space. We're starting a project around student testing accommodations where both from an operational and a physical location for the number of individuals who have testing accommodations, especially when it comes to midterms and finals, and how can we operationalize that more efficiently. We are working with emergency management on the campus camera policy, and this is more just about operations in the sense of understanding the types of systems that are out there and the connectivity around those systems, potential vendor spend opportunities and so forth, not necessarily changing the policy. It's just changing or understanding the operations so that in the event of in the event of an event, emergency management has a clear understanding of kind of what is out there and how to manage the different systems. Because right now it is kind of delegated to all of the schools, departments, and units, and it's not a very well coordinated. So it's a little bit clunky of following a situation across campus. I am also working a lot in the athletic space. As you might have heard, we've hired a new football coach. And there is a lot of transition around that as well as I will be working in closely with Bubba on kind of the future of college athletics and what that looks like in this changing world of college athletics. We did recently, I mentioned earlier, we have advising facilitation. We did a facilitation for F&O around their own space allocation. They wanted to see if they can have us help them kind of facilitate a conversation around how they were using space internally so that they could better optimize their own space allocation. So we recently helped them with that. And then just to touch upon, to give you a sense, I mentioned the embedded transformation managers in the different schools, but in the School of Dentistry, we have just worked on a plan around treatment planning and helping understand from a clinical and a student perspective around treatment planning. We will be doing some work in the college around research administrative support. And then in the School of Nursing, their next project is going to be focused more on data tracking and kind of dashboard identification to inform leadership. So that was a lot. I tried to get through a lot, but as you can see, we have a lot of projects going on, and we are always here to help. I would just say our intake kind of comes from the Provost or Chancellor, the Joint Cabinet, but also the campus community. And we have done kind of more structured listening tours where we've gone out and talked to major campus units. But I can tell you, and I would encourage you, I can tell you that often I am getting emails, texts, phone calls from faculty, staff, and students across campus that reach out to me and are asking, can you help out? Can you help with this? Sometimes it's just helping on that one-off to understand what the root cause of the problem is. And then we go from there and maybe more problem solving in the long term of what that looks like. That's about it. Let me know any questions.
Awesome. Thank you for that update, Rick. Sarah, you have a question.
I do. Hi, Rick. Thanks for popping in. You had mentioned trainings. I recently took the Lean intro training because I'm in my capacity as a employee engagement person, wanted to get a feel for what we were offering, suggesting, and how that support looked. And I'm curious, so for anyone else who has not been on the website, it seemed to me, so also please feel free to let me know if this is incorrect, but it seemed to me that Lean kind of 101, we'll just call it, was required in order to take any of the further higher up trainings from your team. The training itself was great. They are fantastic facilitators. I'm curious though why you all chose Lean. And as I was looking into other modalities of like process management and methodologies, Lean was listed as a manufacturing one, and there are so many more that are much more kind of customer servicey, people focused. My biggest concern with Lean was that it removed the humanity from all of the interactions. It was, does this create value? Is this too many steps? What does the customer think? And as a organization, an enterprise that is humans on the front and the back end, right? Receiving and creating, offering and building. I was very concerned that this was what we were offering as like a mainstay everyone should have. And then also curious about, maybe I'm missing something. Why was Lean chosen when there are so many other options out there?
Sure. Well, thanks for that, and thanks for coming. So we do, for just to set the kind of course here, we have 3 trainings. Our first is Lean Foundations, which is an introduction, high-level foundations. The second is called From Problem to Project, where individuals come together and they bring a project to us, and we help scope the problem to a project by the time they leave. And so that is really a lot of the work that we do. And the last one is about change. So it's that series. I would say that it is not required for you to take From Problem to Project or the change. It's not required that you take Lean to do that. We do say that for you to take the change, you need to come to the second one, From Problem to Project, because we do build off. This is a very kind of high-level introduction. And I would say that, while, yes, we follow some of the processes and methodologies and mindset of Lean, it really comes down to Lean is focused on eliminating waste. And our work has not been focused on like cost cutting and cost save. We are going to do, through being more efficient, eliminating the waste, we're going to have efficiencies in our work, and we'll see opportunities to generate cost savings, new revenue opportunities. Whereas some other things that are more focused on cost cutting, we're looking at the process as a whole and seeing where we could be more efficient, in empowering you all to go from a current state to a future state with a clean slate in the middle, to identify what that process is by eliminating the waste to be a more efficient process. Does that make sense?
I mean, it does. It still sounds very dehumanizing. From the like HR and community perspective, what I do is waste. Right? Like that, the soft parts of business, the team lunches and the community relationships. And so I heard your answer. I appreciate your answer. I guess it is what y'all chose. So thank you for that.
I would say, Sarah, that if you were ever to be involved, and I'd welcome you to participate in some, and I know Katie has been a part of our solution design. I'm not sure if others on there. The process itself that we take through to go through a process improvement solution design is very collaborative. It is intentionally driven by collaboration from parties of both central, decentralized individuals, building relationships, building those collaborations, working together to solve problems, in understanding the aspect of the human side of that. So maybe that is not a good reflection of that process to actually how we actualize our work and getting to kind of the eliminating waste of a process. But the process through our solution design is very collaborative, involves a lot of conversation with individuals.
I definitely can speak to the collaborative nature of the project I participated on. So that definitely is a piece of it, and maybe not a part of the Lean Foundations training, but it's a part of the work that operational excellence projects kind of touch on. You mentioned something about the student success project that operational excellence took on, and a lot of things go into student success, as you mentioned. Some of the things the forum kind of grapples with on a day-to-day basis around staff success are similarly multifaceted, and it's a lot of things go into staff success. So I mean, I think I could see a reality in which we look at staff success as a project that operational excellence could take on, and looking at some of the things we struggle with, like retention and career progression and growth and staff well-being and all of the things that kind of go into how do we make sure staff at the university are successful in the various parts of their being. So you said staff or student success, and I immediately thought of staff success. So just a piece of feedback and thought that we could maybe take on with partnership with your team.
I love it, Katie. It's a great idea. It hasn't been approached, I haven't been approached by that topic, but I do love the idea.
And
Certainly.
of course, Linc's team would be critical
Yeah.
in that as well. So awesome.
Again, just to make sure everybody is aware, operational excellence is never the subject matter expert in the topic per se. We're the subject matter expert in the facilitation, the process improvement, and we bring the experts to the table. Unlike an external consultant that have all the experts at their fingertips, we have all the wonderful highly talented, intelligent faculty, staff, and students that we bring to the table to help problem solve for us. So, this is again where opportunities come to us, and we will take you through the process, but we only benefit by having, all of you at the table to help us think through it. So absolutely, Linc and others like that would be, at the table, whatever, with a project like that or whatever project it would be, that those are the experts we're bringing to the table.
Any other questions for Rick? Your team is very busy. It's always good to hear all the things y'all are working on. And the goal is to have Rick come out maybe once a semester to talk about some of those things. I think it's good that the forum has all of these projects on their radar, given so many of them touch on staff, and kind of knowing kind of where we're trying to improve as a university is going to be helpful for us in our role as delegates to make sure that we're representing our constituencies well and communicating feedback to you as a part of that process. So.
Yeah, I would say, if you heard something today that you want to learn a little bit more about, just please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk through it more, happy to get different perspectives. We have different levels of involvement where we would want to hear from campus as we're building through things, and have the opportunity to talk to many individuals and learn or projects that come our way. So don't wait until the next time I'm here. Please reach out to me. Email me, call me, text me if you have my number. Katie has my number, and I'm always willing to share. Please just reach out. I'm happy to help in any way I can. And we can follow up on that staff success and think about what that could look like.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'm going to echo Keith's comment in the chat. We love Nick, amazing member of your team, worked with him many times. So shout out to all of the amazing staff over at Operational Excellence helping y'all do that work.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rick. All right, folks, we just talked a lot about HR, so I'm going to turn to Linc for our human resources updates. Unfortunately, Becky couldn't be with us today, but we're always glad to have you, Linc. So I'm going to turn it to you.
Thanks, Katie. Happy to be here. Good to see you all. And Becky is on a well-deserved vacation, so she is getting some rest and relaxation in. And since I transitioned from Rick's presentation, I'll just echo, we've had some really great partnerships with him and his team over the years on a variety of different projects. And one of the most recent solutions that came out of the faculty hiring redesign work just went live last night. It's actually an action that allows duplication of pre-approved positions, which will help streamline the creation of new positions as they are set up. And we're looking at broadening that beyond just faculty, of course. So thank you, Rick, for being such a great partner. And touching on the conversation that the provost talked about right off the bat, of course, we all know that there's a lot of change happening in the research space. There are some employees who are being impacted directly by some of that, those executive orders that are issuing stop work orders on certain grants and projects. And just wanted to let this group know, and I think you're already familiar, that we do have a pretty involved process in place to support employees who are impacted by that. My team is working with the campus units, the HR folks there, and will then also be working directly with the employees who may be impacted to make sure that they have all the information they need, that if there are situations where positions have to be RIF'd or go through a reduction in force, that we'll be supporting them through that. We also have some outplacement services that are part of the support network for folks who are impacted by RIF that we've had in place for years, and we'll be mobilizing that as well. So just know we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're supporting those employees who are going through undoubtedly a difficult time. So to focus a little more on some more positive news, our executive talent management team, led by Sarah Reese and Charlie Rice, who's one of your delegates. Unfortunately, she had to scoot to another meeting. They are doing some really great work supporting some of the executive searches that are happening right now, including the Dean of the School of Education, General Counsel, Vice Chancellor of Communications, and soon to launch the Director of the Akron Art Museum position. So they are staying very, very busy and providing support to those searches and search chairs and search committees. In addition to that, and separate and apart from that, we just rolled out in Connect, Carolina. Yes, Charlie is the GOAT. We love her. She's tremendous, outstanding HR professional, and really, really great at what she does. So in Connect, Carolina, we did recently roll out online position descriptions to managers, and those will also be made available to employees in mid-June. We wanted to cascade that rollout so that managers would have a chance to see what's actually in there, and then take any steps they needed to work with their employees to update position descriptions before they're made available a little bit later in the year. This is a long time coming. We're very excited that this is a functionality that is now available and will be available to employees that they can actually go in and see online their position descriptions. And then also Joe Williams asked me to pass along, and we've had several conversations, of course, about the transition over to Aetna as the claims administrator for the state health plan. And I think we all know that, like with any new vendor, there are always going to be some adjustment periods where things maybe don't go the way that we think they should. But if you're experiencing any issues with Aetna, Joe encouraged you to reach out to their concierge service. I'll put the number in the chat so you'll see that. And there's also that phone number is also on the back of your state health plan ID cards. And then also you could reach out to our benefits team, and I'm sure they would be happy to help you navigate if there is a challenge or an issue you're having with a particular claim, and get you pointed in the right direction. So I don't really have a ton of updates. That's the end of sort of my list. I know that Jessica Purcell from our organizational professional development team is scheduled to come next month to talk about performance management, which we're pretty excited about. She's doing some amazing work along with Kathleen Guerra, who is in this meeting. And so we're really excited about some of the things she's going to be sharing with you next month. And then, of course, we have our wonderful and amazing Jessica Pyjas, who is with us. But before we switch it over to Jessica, I just want to open it up if there are any questions about anything I've shared, or if there's any other things I can try to help or answer questions on.
Thanks so much, Linc. Questions? Sharon.
Hi, Linc. And you touched on this, but I just want to clarify your comment about the concierge service or reaching out to the benefits staff if we need assistance in navigating. We're hearing early on, we heard that there was no change in coverage expected, but we're hearing from numerous people of surprises that the coverage that was previously offered is no longer being offered in many areas. And I don't know that that's necessarily navigating the system as much as shock of the changes that were not expected. Is that an example that we should, any suggestions there?
Sure, and thanks for raising that, Sharon. The state health plan itself, in terms of what they cover, how much they cover, has not changed. However, what we are hearing a little bit about is that there may be some healthcare providers who were in network under the prior Blue Cross Blue Shield administration that may now not be in network. And so there may be maybe this is sort of related to what you're bringing up. But Sharon, if you have specific details, I would encourage, if you have them, send them to me so I can work with Joe to see what we can do. Or if there are particular employees that you're hearing from that need some help, have them reach out to Joe and his team, and we'll do whatever we can to try and help them with those particular challenges.
Would you prefer we collect those and document them or have individuals reach out? Because I don't want us to lose sight of the collective feedback, but I also don't want to bombard it with if it's better to do it individually.
Yeah, so two ways of me thinking on that is the aggregate would be helpful to see all the things that folks are reporting back to you. However, I would still encourage those individuals to reach out to the benefits team sooner than later to try and get their issues resolved more quickly. I wouldn't want there to be any delay while we're trying to gather what you're hearing into one sort of consolidated list to get to us. So if you encourage them to reach out directly, but at the same time, if there is a list or a consolidated list of concerns or issues, would love to see that. So if you want to send that to me and Joe Williams, that'd be great.
Thank you. That sounds like an excellent plan.
Thanks, Sharon.
Arlene.
This is as much a question as a thank you for the information about the community service leave for Helene recovery. That document was very well written and made it very easy to give people instructions. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. And I wish I could take credit for that, but I've got to give kudos to our comms team. They really did an amazing job with new things coming out and having to turn it around and get it out to folks. So I will definitely pass that feedback along to them and to Katie Nolan, who oversees that team. But thank you, Arlene. I really appreciate that.
Liz.
Hey there. It was such
Hey, Liz.
a pleasure to hear myself being called Liz. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
Linc, while you're still on here and listening in, actually one of the committees in the employee forum I participate in would like to track our experiences with changes under the coverage. And may one of us or some of us reach out to you about the kinds of categories of changes that we might want to track? Because there's, oh, my provider's no longer a network, even though they said that Aetna was just taking on the same exact contract of the state employees coverage. There's suddenly this is a specialist when they weren't. There's, my left foot turned bright green, whatever. Can we work with you on the kinds of things that would be valuable to track?
Sure, Liz. Reach out to both me and Joe, and would love to hear more about what the committee is wanting to look at. So yeah, absolutely. Reach out and we'll
Great. I think Sarah and I were taking a separate conversation outside about that, and maybe we'll bring it back to the forum overall. But thank you, Linc. We'll reach out.
Perfect. Yeah, happy to help.
Other questions for Linc?
I do have a quick question. And I saw James had posted it in the chat earlier about the Burmese community being afraid of being deported, and just wanted to know, I mean, we've talked about, the research professionals and other folks who have been impacted by some of the legislation and other things that are coming down the pike, but has anyone reached out to, or is HR going to reach out to that community or some of the facilities folks who are who may be concerned? Like, is anything going out to them to communicate, we're here for you, how to support, what are your options, just giving some kind of peace of mind and acknowledgement of the situation that's happening?
Yeah, we don't have anything currently planned, but that's great feedback to hear, Tiffany, and I'll reach out to our partners over in the facilities HR team. Bill Stocker's the HR officer, and he, of course, has a team that supports facilities. And we'll have some discussion about what may be needed, and we'll also engage with Herb Richmond about that too, over the housekeeping area, because I know that there's probably the largest Burmese populations working in that group. But yeah, that's great feedback. I'm happy to reach out to them and see what we might want to do to try and help ensure those folks understand what we can do to help support them.
Thank you, Linc.
Well, thank you, Tiffany.
I had a question, and this actually might be a little early on, and it might be a Becky question, and maybe Becky doesn't know at this point. At last week's Board of Governors meeting during the university personnel committee meeting, there was a presentation and a lot of talk about human resources shared services model at the system level, where a lot of campuses, I think maybe 6 or so, are already participating. But it seemed to me that there was a push to maybe try and have it be a cross-system kind of model that they're pushing towards. of having shared services for all campuses, human resources. Do we know, like at this stage, kind of what, if that is going to be a reality, or if they're pushing for that, and if that would happen to us? I just feel like the valuable work that our Office of Human Resources at UNC-Chapel Hill brings, given the vastness of our enterprise, would really, really struggle under a shared services model at the system level. So I just wanted to get kind of an early take on that from our team.
Yeah, I'll share what I know. And first of all, thank you for the kind words and your support. That is specific to benefits support, not sort of broadly all the HR categories. And as I understand it, the campuses that are working in a shared services model with them are among some of our smaller campuses. It really started, I think, with Fayetteville State, and it was out of a necessity. They essentially had some significant turnover all in their benefits shop. So the system office stepped in and started providing benefit support for that particular campus. And as I understand it, that has been engaged when the campus reaches out to the system office to say, hey, this is something we would like some help with. I know Joe's had some conversations with Ashley Nicholas, who oversees the benefits operation at the system office. And what we're hearing right now is that the two campuses that would not be a part of that are us and NC State. And the reason for that is everything you just said, Katie, that we're so large, so complex. And so at this point, I'm not aware of any push to roll out to other campuses, sort of mandating it, other than campuses reaching out to the system office to say, hey, we'd like to explore this. And I think they're in conversation with either 2 or 3 other campuses now. And I'm not sure which ones those are, but if you look at the ones that are currently on, it's places like Fayetteville State and some of the the smaller campuses that I think are more amenable to working in that kind of a shared services arrangement.
And that definitely,
that's what I know.
That definitely tracks with my experience of working on staff assembly and knowing the kind of pain points of those smaller campuses. Like a shared services model at the system level makes a whole lot of sense. But it's comforting to hear that wouldn't translate to some other campuses that don't have the same needs, and that there's flexibility there. Okay, great.
Thanks, Katie. All right, I'm happy to turn it over to Jessica now. She's told me a little earlier.
She's wearing red, yay.
She's a little under the weather, so she might be eating cough drops like candy. But Jessica, hope you're feeling better soon, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Linc. Wonderful introduction. Yes. Don't know how my voice will sound as I go through this, but better than it did when I woke up. So good morning, everyone. Good to see you. So I am wearing red. It's not particularly my favorite color based on where I work and my hair color personally, but Wear Red Day is today, which recognizes cardiovascular disease in women on this particular day. But February is Heart Month all month long, every February, and Wear Red Day is that first Friday of every February. So there will be an article in the Workwell newsletter that will come out later today, just giving you access to a website that highlights some heart healthy tips, encouraging you to be active, reminding you that you do have access to our campus recreation resources with an employee membership that did increase slightly in the new year. So it is now $20 a month instead of the $12.50 that it used to be. But that is significantly cheaper than a lot of gyms out there in the community, but you do have access to gym discounts through our discount programs to make sure that you're eating a well-balanced diet. And there's lots of resources to help you do that, from Eat Smart, Move More to free dietitians visits to our employee nutrition program that started this fall. To de-stress and remind you that you do have access to brief 15-minute meditation sessions every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoon. Those are live, no registration needed. You just have to click on that button and participate via Microsoft Teams. And of course, to practice kindness and smile often, because that is infectious, and to make sure that you're being compassionate and kind to others. And so this background will be available in the Workwell newsletter, is on the Heart website right now. and I plan to have it up all month long. And then as we're getting closer to March, we're just about 5 weeks away now, our, of course, Total Wellbeing Expo is scheduled for March 12th. I'm happy to see some of you sign up to volunteer. We still need about 50%, we still have 50% of our volunteer slots open, so please sign up for those. But our theme this year is Where Tar Heels Rise, Wellness Thrives, and that was submitted by one of our wellness champions. We're bringing back the free wellness checks to the exhibit hall this year. So State Health Plan will be providing those starting as early as 9 a.m. The whole exhibit hall and event will start at its usual time at 11, but you can get a wellness check, which is just a 15-minute finger stick blood sample to give you some very valuable information about your health when it comes to cholesterol, blood glucose, height, weight, blood pressure, and all those vital things to follow up with your doctors if anything is elevated. TIAA has generously sponsored lunch again this year. So there will be lunch, and it most likely will be pizza. So we encourage you to get your steps in that day or choose from one of our veggie options. And there will be gluten-free pizza there as well. We'll have the chair massages, of course. We can never get rid of those now. We'll have 3 cooking demos. We'll have fitness classes and meditation sessions. We'll have therapy dogs throughout the day, our jump roping performance by bouncing bulldogs. And we have an even larger number of exhibitors in our exhibit hall this year. So that's exciting. If you don't want to get the full wellness check, there'll be different booths providing blood pressure screenings. And then if you have any unused or expired medications, you can drop those off at the UNC Police exhibit. They'll have their medicine drop there, accepting pills, liquids, and sharps. So please bring those. I'd love to see a lot of that disposed of safely and out of our homes if we're not using it. And then Ramsey is going to be there for an extended time this year, and there will be a Ramsey selfie station. And then we have Pepsi joining us this year. They will be having a sampling station of their new energy drink Celsius. There will also be a 360 camera in Gym B where lunch is served. So I hope everybody has a fun time with that camera, tries those energy drinks. I am a fan of the Celsius drinks. So again, if you'd like to sign up to volunteer, we're opening up volunteers opportunities the day before the event. So we're looking for volunteers to help us that afternoon on March 11th, starting at 3 o'clock. And then starting as early as 8 o'clock the day of the event through 3:30. So thank you all for your help in advance. I know more of you will sign up, and regardless if you're available to volunteer or not, I really look forward to seeing you, and I hope I get a chance to see you at the Total Wellbeing Expo. As we promote each month, we have a new feature in the Workwell called Did You Know? Total Wellbeing Did You Know? So the thing that I'm highlighting this month is just to remind you that the preventative screenings are covered at no cost to you. So make sure if you've not already to get that annual physical on your calendar. Those blood pressure screenings, knowing your cholesterol, knowing your blood sugar, blood glucose, sorry. Those are very important to know to keep your heart healthy, and we are preaching heart health this month. So no, and in addition to those, of course, other screenings, vaccinations, those are covered at no cost. It gets a little tricky if you want to talk to your physician about anything outside of your routine appointment, your routine physical. But if you're there just for your annual physical, it's coded as a preventive visit and it does not cost anything to you. So make that appointment, and that applies to both 70/30 and 80/20 plan members. And then you may have heard me mention this last time, but in the fall, we started a program called Employee Nutrition Counseling Program, where doctors comes on site where you work to have your first baseline appointment to meet with a doctor and have your first checkup. They'll come right there to your building, and the School of Government is hosting their second session this month. It's going to be February 21st. Even though it's held in the School of Government, it is open to any employee if you want to go there. Parking will be available to you. They'll provide you with a QR code to scan and park. But it's a really good program to get you started, to meet with a doctor, and then to kick off your nutrition appointments. The nutrition appointments will cost nothing. To meet with a doctor is the cost of a primary care copay, but it's just a convenient service to you if you have had any hesitation with getting started with a nutritionist in the past. Moving through the month, we are having Wellness Wednesdays every Wednesday this month. And next week, our topic is moving through grief and loss, followed by on the 19th, connecting mind and body for healthy living, and finishing off the month with learning to relax. And then to remind you that on Monday is our first well-being / no meeting day. I hope everybody is abiding by that by now. We are offering some webinars available to you on Monday, including self-care tips for managers, our 15-minute meditation session, and avoiding burnout, self-assessment, and strategies for self-care. So if those interest you, the meditation sessions are only 15 to 20 minutes, and the educational webinars are about 45 to 60 minutes, depending on the speaker and the questions. Our Helping Heals list has been updated, and we did get a few more people on there. So if you're looking for part-time childcare, pet care, or senior compassionate care, do refer to our Healthy Heals list. And your discount this month, we're going to be featuring the discounts offered in Working Advantage for gift giving, including flowers and edible arrangements and fragrances, as well as discounts on tax preparation through TurboTax and Tax Act. And then LifeMart, your new discount platform brought to you by Aetna. They have some great savings for pet insurance and then pet subscription boxes. So I encourage you to show your pets some love too this month, this Valentine's Day. And then as you're visiting any of these links that are connected to our wellness site, you may notice that got a little bit of a facelift in the sense that it looks very, very different. And I will show more of that next month as I work through every single word that's on that website next week. So thank you all so much. Let me know if you have any questions, and we will have one more meeting before the expo. But I do hope to see you there, and I do hope that you have some time to help us out and volunteer. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks,
Arlene.
Arlene, question.
The medication drop, does that include things like lotions? Because a lot of times this is medicine drop and does not include lotions.
Let me ask on that. I think they would accept that, but I can't say for certain. I'm assuming it's a prescription.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask about that, Arlene.
Okay.
And Keith, there he is.
Hey, Jessica. Wonderful job. Thank you, as always. Again, about the prescription drop, and this just made me think of it, and random, completely out of the blue. I recently went to the eye doctor, so I got a new prescription. So now I have like 28 pairs of glasses that are not the right prescription. Does anyone know? Like, I think I can take them to my doctor's office next time I'm in Burlington, but like, who collects prescription glasses that can be given to people that need them?
Lions Club.
Elizabeth does. It would not be UNC police with the medication drop, but I have heard of different offices collecting those, and it sounds like you're getting some feedback.
Me.
Yeah, Elizabeth, Lens Crafters, Costco, people are dropping things in the chat box.
Okay.
Keith, this is Liz, Eliza, anything but Beth. I work at the Kittner Eye Center, and we work with the Lions Club, and we work with Prevent Blindness, North Carolina and America. You can drop off all your used glasses to us, to me. I will come and pick them up.
Okay.
I don't
Also,
recommend that everybody absolutely bomb our optical shop with this because they are, as usual, doing the work of an army of people and a small team. But we
okay.
do, your provider may be able to take them back, but I know that we do. We collect.
Okay. All right. I also have contact lenses, but I feel like those might be harder to.
That's a no.
So,
I mean, because they have
yeah.
expiration days, they have the
Yeah.
curvature of the lens. However, we definitely can and do take the other glasses. Sometimes a prescription may be okay for somebody, but the frames cost so much money. When we can, we go ahead and they get new lenses on another person. We don't actively do this, but the Lions program does. And prevent blindness. And then if there's something that absolutely can't be updated, it goes to somebody like the scrap exchange. So they do not go in the landfill.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question, Keith. Thanks.
Now I have to re-up my glasses with the new prescription.
You're rocking the new glasses.
All right, folks, any other questions for Jessica?
Hey, Katie, this is Teresa.
Hey,
I just want to
Teresa.
say thank you to Jessica for her support for National Wear Red Day. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Teresa. It sounds like we have maybe the same thing.
Possibly.
Rest up, drinking
You
tea,
too. You
eating
too.
cough drops.
Y'all feel better. Oh my goodness. Awesome. All right, folks. Well, Jessica, thanks as always. Feel free to pass along your updates and I'll share them with folks to disseminate out. And we really appreciate it as always.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
All right, folks, moving right along to the next section of our agenda, which is our consent agenda, which just includes our January 10th, 2025 meeting minutes, which Matt passed along earlier this week. Hopefully y'all have had a chance to review them. With that said, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Arlene. I move to approve.
This is Tiffany. I second.
All right, having a motion and a second. Any debate? We'll do this one by acclamation. Are there any opposed to the approval of the consent agenda, including the minutes? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes. Thanks, everybody. Next up, we've got committee updates. So we're going to go through committee updates because that's where the real work of the forum happens. So I'm just going to read through and call on folks. So first up is communications and public relations, Shane or Joe.
Hey everybody, we are just we're hoping to actually have gotten an in touch out earlier, but we hadn't, so we still have one that we're putting together that should go out soon. But we're also getting ready to prepare for having the scavenger hunt again during the Wellness Expo. So people keep an eye out for that and look at our social media platforms and participate on that day, because we didn't do it in the fall, we're doing it now, or then.
Yeah, we definitely postponed the fall event, which usually happens at Employee Appreciation, because it was in such close proximity to the disaster in Western North Carolina. It didn't feel good or right to be asking local businesses who are donating so much helpful resources to the western part of our state. So we're going to pick that back up and have some awesome staff bonding and shared awesomeness at a scavenger hunt in the spring. So I know folks really like that one. It's actually a little frightening how much staff really like this event, because as a person that hides the clues, like I swear I've been followed around campus on the days that these happen. Like it's actually kind of creepy, but it's really fun. So make sure y'all participate on the Wellness Day, or not the Wellness Day, the Wellness Expo Day. Awesome. Thanks, Shane. Book club, any updates from Natalia or Vanessa?
Go ahead, Natalia. Do you want to? You can. It's exciting though. We're excited.
Oh, go ahead, Vanessa. I'll post it in the chat.
Oh, okay. So on Thursday, March 27th at noon, we're going to be in 3005, the Hooker Research Center with Daniel Wallace. He's UNC faculty, and he's going to be in person to discuss his book, Big Fish. So that will be something that we're going to send out again about registering, but we're super excited to have him in person. Yeah.
Yay. I know the in-person one went over really well last time, so glad y'all are doing that again. Okay. Thank you all. Bye, Shaya. Next up, we have community service. Allie or Teresa?
Hello, I'll speak. So Teresa doesn't have to. Hopefully, Teresa, you start feeling much better soon. Our super immediate updates. We're working on planning a March Kindness Drive as we have done in previous years, as well as reaching out to Habitat for Humanity to try and get a build day somewhere in late May. So more to come on that.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. Laura, I'm so glad to have you back on our call. Laura's here to provide a blood drive update.
It's so exciting to get to join again. I miss you all. So as I mentioned last month, you're stuck with me for a little while because Renata had a beautiful baby girl. But I'm here to spread the good news about the Carolina Blood Drive. I'll put it in chat. So our Carolina Blood Drive is Wednesday, April 30th. That is a reading day. Same time as usual, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to be down in the Dean Smith Center. There are right now more than 600 appointments available. So go ahead, log in, grab your appointment so you can get the time that you want. We would love to have some Power Red donors. That's a little bit longer of a donation period, but we get 2 productive units of blood instead of just 1. So you're saving double the lives. Woo! But it's going to be a fabulous day. We do not yet have the volunteer sign up ready. Once that's ready, of course, I'll share with this group. But in the meantime, please definitely log in. That UNC is the sponsor code when you go in to find the appointment. Make your appointment, get the time that you want. We will be accepting walk-ins. So if you have like a weird day and you can't commit to an appointment time, totally fine. Walk in whenever you can. We'll be more than happy to take your donation whenever you can get there. Let me know if you have any questions. Yes, we will need volunteers, Liz, but we do not have the volunteer registration form ready yet.
That comes a little closer to the drive, I think. Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Next up, we've got Community Garden. Any updates from our lead?
Yes. Those who are in the executive committee know that Claire's a little concerned that the second shift housekeeper distribution numbers were down. James Stamey and Daniel Rose brought it up in a meeting and followed up the second shift housekeepers. There's now they went from 8 to 22 at the distribution, so yay. And also the garden has heard from the student group RESPC. They're going to fund a solar shade for the garden, which is a 20 by 20 structure that will provide shade. Will also have solar panels to provide lighting and electricity for cooking demonstrations at the garden. The only thing that's left, though, is getting approval from the Historic District Committee, Buildings and Grounds. So this is not immediate, but at least there's funds for it.
So, sounds great. All right, next up, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sarah or Charlie? I think Charlie had to hop off.
Yeah, so our subcommittees are hard at work. One of our subcommittees has transitioned to the full employee forum because we were planning the community meeting. So we now have a different group planning that. Yay that is underway. I think we've planned it for sometime in mid to late March, just so that y'all know. But once we settle on a date and time, you will know. It will be different than our regular employee forum open meeting. So this will be a whole separate thing. Otherwise, in the DEI committee, we are, well, I'll just leave it there. We are talking, lots of talking is happening, lots of collaboration with the personnel team, with the lots of movement all around.
Awesome. Thanks for all of that. Let's see. Leadership, education, and career development. Ellie or Siobhan, any updates from y'all?
I don't think we really have any updates. We are going through professional development grants, and those will launch again many months from now. So I'll let you know when we're ready. I'll also keep you all updated on Carolina Family Scholarship is probably the next big thing that's going to come down the pipeline. So that'll be when it's actually real spring.
Awesome. Sounds great. Next up, membership and engagement, Tiffany or Keith.
Yeah, so we have a lot going on right this minute. For one, you all should have gotten an email from me about a women's basketball game Sunday, March the 2nd. So if you want to bring your family, great, that's awesome. If you don't want to come, I will still use your tickets. So because here's the thing, Shayna Hill, our previous chair, is working with a group of people that mentor kids and people in recovery, and they would love to come to the game. So I need you all to register and ask for the tickets so I can ask, because each employee gets 4 complimentary tickets. So if you all ask for the 4 tickets, you can give them to whomever you want to, and we would like to give them to this group so that they can come and attend the game. So fill out the survey. Thank you. Next up, guess what time it is? It is not winter. It is not spring. It is election time. That's what it is. So we're working on a timeline for that and getting all of that stuff out. This is for general body elections. So to be a delegate of the forum. So look out for that. If you know people that you think would be great, nominate them, nominate yourself. If you are at the end of your term, whether it was a 1-year appointment or a 2-year election win, and you will be getting a letter letting you know that you're at the end of your term and you need to be reelected. Okay. People are sending me stuff in the chat. I'll read it in just a minute because I am not like Jessica Pyjas good where I can keep talking to you and read the chat and like not miss a beat. I'd be all over the place. Jessica's the GOAT. So yeah, we have that. What else do we have?
March meeting.
March meeting in person.
Yes,
I
social.
want to see your faces, not on Zoom. So of course, anytime nowadays, anytime we get together, there will be food. So we will give you breakfast.
And
Although we do realize it is on a Friday.
And coffee.
Coffee,
So-
tea, food. A small caveat, it's not going to be in that same car 1001 space that we were in last time, but it is right nearby. It's in the building that's connected to Car Hall. So it's in Beard 209 on the 2nd floor. So yeah, just
Yes.
a note about a location shift.
It is March 7th.
Yes.
So yes. That may be all we have right now.
I think that's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, and Tiff, for all your help with that, and some others who are helping out with elections this year, because it's always a huge project to make sure our delegate elections run smoothly.
Oh, one other thing, since Laura Pratt is around, she reared her head. Welcome to the elections team. Thank you very much.
Not actually.
No, You no, you never should. You pop back in. Tell me it's me. I'm back. I'm here.
I'm
It's
temporarily back. Temporarily. Asterisk.
yeah, and yeah. Welcome to the team.
Okay, fine.
Laura is indeed very loved. We realize you're a very busy gal, and we appreciate your time and your leadership on the blood drive. So we're not gonna scare you off, but yeah.
Y'all are precious. Only because it's Keith and Tiffany. I will help. Dream team.
Dream team. Oh goodness. All right, folks. Next up, personnel issues. Sharon or Greg?
As you can imagine, we have a lot going on. We discussed a lot of unknowns, a lot of concern over the federal funding changes, ICE and the activity related there, basically all from a daily basis in the last month plus with changes that keep getting announced and unknowing how that impacts the university and our employees. In addition to those, Aetna, and I really appreciate Linc's information and but a lot of frustrations and pain points were discussed. So we'll be reaching out to the folks that were participating, but I do want to encourage anyone on this call or anyone on the forum that has any information or their constituents have any that they would like to share. I do want to go the approach of both encouraging them to reach out to benefits, but also for us to collect it and provide to benefits a kind of summary and with specific details of what changed that was so surprising to folks. And we are going to be doing a rotation of our meetings, and that will be starting this month. Greg, anything else to add?
I don't think so. You covered it.
Thank you.
You both. All right, next up is recognition and awards. I know Charlie had to hop off. Is Shayla on the call? She may not be. I know that they're getting together a poll to start meeting. Spring is when we kick off kind of the recognition and award season for the employee forum, which our peer recognition award ceremony is always in June. So if you're interested in helping out with that process this year, I know a lot of y'all wouldn't have picked it as your primary committee, but that's the committee kind of that needs reviewers and help once a year. So if you're interested, please reach out to Charlie and Shayla and kind of let them know so we have a good group of reviewers for our awards this year once that time comes, probably in April-ish. Okay. Rules Committee, is Jacob on the call?
I've not seen him on the call today.
Okay. No trustee parliamentarian. Oh Lord, I hope I haven't gone off the rails and broken rules. Okay. All right, next up, we've got UNC Systems Staff Assembly. I know Shayna had to hop off. Rebecca, James, Lisa, and or Keith, any updates from y'all? I know I can share the update about when the meeting is.
It's me again. Oh no. You know what? If Lisa's on here, I'm not gonna steal her thunder. It's not mine anymore. We are meeting April 14th and 15th. I think those are the days. At ECU in Greenville. Hopefully I'm allowed back. I did get to go to Western when we had that meeting, and I was kicked off their campus when I was in undergrad. Whole story. I'll tell y'all about it one day. But no, that's all I have right now. But I'll let Lisa jump in because she has some news. If she's here, is she here?
I'm here.
Hi,
Okay.
Lisa.
Oh, yeah, there you go, girl.
So we actually have a meeting this afternoon for the Chancellor's Golf Tournament. We have potentially probably secured a location for the golf tournament. We will be confirming those dates this afternoon at 2:30 just to ensure that the club that was chosen can accommodate our dates. So that should be further shared next week.
Awesome. Any preview of where it's going to be? I know the answer to this, but for others.
I will say that it was a close vote. And as of right now, we will be in a very beautiful location that may not be so centrally located.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for all of your hard work on that. We always love the Chancellor's Cup Golf Tournament because it raises money for staff, and that's so, so important. So, yeah, loving that. Looking forward to hearing more. Okay. University committees, advisory committee on transportation and parking. Keith and I are on that still. They scheduled a meeting for next week. So we are going to start kind of the conversation back up after all of the transition in transportation and parking office. Hopefully ACTS can kind of resume the conversation about the implementation of their 5-year plan, which happened last year. But given all of the transitions, there were some pain points and things. So hopefully ACT can be a great resource to help kind of pinpoint some of those issues and try and resolve those, and widely educate and communicate with campus about the transportation and parking 5-year plan, which came out last year. Rebecca, your hand's up.
Yeah, I love the 5-year plan, want to know more about that, but more urgently, communications regarding commencement parking would be exceptionally welcome by those who are planning commencements on a Friday. So yeah, if that can be on the agenda when y'all meet, that'd be great.
That is very timely. Thank you for bringing that to me, and I will be sure to ask that question if it's not on the agenda. Where and when is that communication coming to campus? Because it is very critically important in the planner world for the huge event that is the many, many commencements. There's not just one. So awesome. Keith, help me remember to bring that up next week. All right, AI committee, Matt Teal. Is Matt on the call? Matt is not on the call. I do know that we're having Mark McNeely, who leads the Provost AI committee, to come out to the executive committee meeting in February to provide some updates from the AI initiatives that are happening on campus. We're looking forward to having him at that meeting. He was unfortunately unable to come today. He was the planned speaker for today, but was unable to attend. So we're looking forward to having him come out at the executive committee in February, which that's one thing we didn't mention during membership and assignments, but for those on executive committee, you already know, it is a week later this month than normal. So it was pushed from, oh gosh, February 18th to February 25th instead. So for those of you not on executive committee, those meetings are always open, but just know it is a week later than normal. So the 4th Tuesday this time instead of the 3rd. Okay. Buildings and grounds, James Stamey, any updates from buildings and grounds?
No new updates. We will meet next Thursday on the 13th.
Awesome.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Carolina Engagement Council. I know we met last week and heard updates. Lots going on with the Carolina Cross 100 initiative. They've also got Carolina Engagement Week coming up soon. I'm going to try and send out some communications that they passed along about Carolina Engagement Week for folks to be aware, for delegates to be aware. And then they're also working on a portal, an engagement portal for organizations, units, departments, student groups, et cetera, across campus to be able to contribute all of the different projects they have going on that contribute to Carolina's various engagement with the state of North Carolina. So that'll be a cool new resource that we'll be able to use to see all of the amazing impact we're having and the engagement we have with the community. So, okay. Carolina Peer Support Collaborative has sunsetted, unfortunately. So I'm gonna at some point have to take this off the list. So sad. They did not they are no longer funded, so we do not have a Carolina Peer Support Collaborative anymore. Sad, sad story. I think time has come for us to kind of push campus, and I've started those conversations in my one-on-one last time with Chancellor Roberts, to bring staff mental health and well-being back to the forefront of the conversation and figure out a way we can broaden our resources to not just the employee assistance program, because staff well-being is more vast and needs more support than just the one resource. So that is on my radar. Committee on the Status of Women, Rebecca. Women, I'm not allowed to say that word anymore, apparently. It's one of those words.
Yes.
So,
So they have just done an assessment or we're trying to set meeting dates basically. So we have not yet had a meeting this semester.
awesome. EOC Policy Advisory Group, I think you're also technically on that, but they never meet. So although there's lots of EOC things happening, I would think that would be helpful for them to be meeting. Yeah. Faculty Welfare Committee, Lisa Peterson. I think that group is still in flux, right?
It is still, yes. We, the chair of it resigned abruptly a few months ago, so there's been some ongoing meetings and conversations looking for new leadership, and somebody just stepped forward last week, so hopefully we will have a meeting in the next month.
Awesome. And for those that aren't aware of what that is, that Faculty Welfare Committee is a faculty council committee that deals with similar issues to our personnel issues committee. So a lot of the things faculty deal with, staff also deal with. So it's helpful to have a presence on their group. So they asked for a staff representative from the forum. So thank you, Lisa, for serving on that for us. Parking appeals. I don't know that there's anything, Tiffany, Natalia, Charlie.
Not heard anything or seen any movement on the page, but
Maybe
since
it's
everyone up
something
and retired, and no one cares, I guess.
Maybe that's something I ask about in the ACT meeting next week. Awesome. Okay, Policy Review Committee. Audrey or Matt?
I am here. We had to postpone our last meeting and I was unable to attend the following meeting. I can touch base with Matt and see if he's doing okay.
Awesome. Well, lots of policy changes, so let us know how we can help. Public Affairs Council, we have not yet met this quarter, so no updates there. Student Stores Advisory Committee, I highly doubt they have met. David, am I wrong?
We have not met in probably a year and a half, almost 2 years, so I'm not sure the status of this committee anymore.
That's unfortunate. Okay.
I have a comment that they are, in theory, looking to hire someone to replace Chuck Sokol, in theory.
And that's who was kind of our contact over there, so. Okay, that's a good note. Can you keep us updated on that, Arlene?
If I know.
Yes, of course. Awesome. Tuition and Fee Advisory Task Force, I think has mostly sunsetted their work. Anetta, I don't know if she's on the call. That work happens in the fall and goes to the Board of Trustees and then subsequently to the Board of Governors. So I think it's still in that process and TBD on whether the tuition and fee changes that were submitted have been approved or not. Okay. We got through all of those committees. That was a lot. Okay, so at this point, our next two sections of the agenda technically don't have anything on them, but I'm going to open up the floor for any old business. Does anyone have any old business to bring to the floor? Feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself. Hearing none, we're going to transition to the next piece, and that is new business. We don't have any agenda items formally on here, but I'm going to open up the floor for anyone who wants to bring any new business for discussion with the body. Not that we haven't talked about enough business already.
So,
Go
I
ahead, Sarah.
started writing something and then thought that I would rather discuss with the forum to see if this is a direction we want to go. But I was inspired by some other campuses, non-UNC campuses, who created statements in support of the community, the non-white and immigrant additions to their campus, and just a statement of support, a commitment to safety. And yeah, so given, what was shared by the chancellor and then was corrected by council and the provost, I think it still would be a nice thing, especially since hearing that housekeepers in particular are feeling a certain type of way. And I know our student body is dealing with students feeling a certain type of way, but open to hearing if that is something that we want to make a statement about. Again, not specifically challenging what the chancellor said. This would be just a commitment to our community, to our employees, and to the necessity and the brilliance of all of the different types of people that we have and hopefully will continue to have on this campus. So posting that as a possible proclamation, and wanted to see where people are with making a kind of statement to our community as the forum representing them.
So Liz has her hand up, but let me first start by saying any forum delegate is welcome to draft proclamations and or resolutions and bring them to the floor of the forum for consideration and debate. So I encourage folks, if you feel like you want to draft something, I welcome that. There's a process in our, I think, bylaws on how to go about doing that. And I always welcome that because I think these sections of our agenda are meant for those types of things. So the group can debate and discuss potential resolutions and proclamations in that way. So that is an option. Liz, you have your hand up.
Mine wasn't in response to what Sarah just said, but I wholeheartedly endorse Sarah's idea that she's bringing forward. Just quickly, because I got to hop off too. My item is, can we put a placeholder note in this section of our minutes today that, following up on Linc's topic of changes seen since the switch to Aetna, may go across committees, and I'm wondering if we can, even at the end of this meeting, just thumbtack that for some organization. Like, that's not just the small set of people that were bringing it up. And Sharon, thank you for recalling that that was the committee in which it first came up. I think it goes across personnel as well, or wherever that would be recommended. And then Sarah was mentioning that it's going to be a Qualtrics survey. I just wanted to get that noted in the minutes. Thanks.
Thanks. Other discussion items?
Katie, can I break in? This is James Stamey.
Go ahead, James.
I was late to the meeting, had some things going on. I apologize. So I missed part of Provost Clemens' discussion. Now, did I hear this or imagine this when I came in? We do not track students' citizenship or anything like that, but I know we have in the past tracked employees. I had an employee become a citizen, I think around October, November, and got, the employee wanted me to get the information to HR where, they would be considered legal status, whatever. And I got an email back saying that they no longer track them in Law Logics once they become a citizen. And maybe I'm not understanding. I know there's a difference between how students are treated versus employees, but I just want to make sure. And, we have a lot of Burmese employees, Hispanic employees, African employees, you know, all different cultures and everything. And there is a lot of confusion about what's going on. Some that I've talked to don't really have concerns, some do. And one of my employees told me, if you're a citizen, you probably really don't care if you've already reached citizenship status, unless you have someone in your family or something that's being affected. But anyway, I was just trying to figure out, in LawLogix, we track employees who are apparently not citizens. Can someone clarify maybe a little bit of that?
I don't know that the discussion with Provost Clemens touched on the employee side of things. So I think that's a Linc question, which I don't think Linc is on the call anymore. Jessica, is Jessica still on the call? Maybe that's something
Katie,
we could bring to Linc. Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
so he did say we don't track citizenship of students. We
Right,
don't.
that was what was discussed, but James's question is about staff.
But for staff and employees, not just here, with anywhere else, to work within the United States, you have to have certain permissions, like either your citizenship documentation saying that you are a citizen of the United States, which is why when you get your job, they ask you for your social security number. You present your social security card, because that documentation is only given to U.S. citizens. Now,
False. Well, there's non-citizens that can have employee work authorizations. So
yes, I said,
yeah.
I didn't finish.
Okay.
I said social security and
Yeah.
social security cards. Now, you have your different work permissions through different visas and different documentation, which non-citizens can have. So that's what they use to track non-citizens, like, and it's not tracking, it's probably the wrong word. It's more so documentation that allows them to work within the United States. So that's technically what they're talking about.
Thank you, Keith. And I'm just going by the language that was sent back to me when I reached out. It said, we no longer track. Hang on, I'll read it. There is nothing due per OHR. Once an employee becomes a lawful permanent resident, we are no longer required to track their citizenship in LawLogix. Nothing is needed. So I was just wanting a little clarification, and I appreciate it.
I think Linc probably could speak to that kind of distinction and understanding what that word and language means in terms of tracking. Arlene?
I have done numerous I-9s, including for people who are permanent residents, etc. So while I'm not an expert, it is something that I have dealt with occasionally. In order to work in the US, they have special paperwork, and that paperwork has to be renewed in some cases, and that's what is tracked in LawLogix. So Janet Menendez has a job. It's like, okay, she has a work visa. The work visa often has an expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be renewed. And that's what LawLogix looks at. And non-citizens can get a social security number.
Yes. I think Jessica was asking in the chat what the question for Linc was. I think it's just kind of clarification around the language of what is tracked in LawLogix around staff citizenship status and what information the university maintains to track citizenship status of their employees. David?
Yeah, something that was said a couple of times about non-citizens and social security numbers. A non-citizen absolutely can get a social security number.
Yes, they
I'm
can.
living with a Venezuelan asylum seeker, and he has a social security number.
Yeah. It's a very complex process, the immigration process in the United States. So lots of different steps and phases of that where you have various forms of documentation as a part of the asylum or visa process. Okay. Any other discussion from the body? Otherwise, we'll move into announcements in our It Takes a Village session. Hearing none. Announcements. Staff Advisory Committee to the Chancellor has a meeting next week. So looking forward to that conversation with the Chancellor. Delegate or Staff Advisory Committee members should be getting an Outlook invite for that meeting soon. Vice Chancellor's representatives meeting is not until March 13th, 2025. A Qualtrics survey for submitting questions for that should be coming out in mid to late February. So be on the lookout for that and submit any questions you want to bring to our VCs. And then, yeah, this is the end of the meeting, and I always like to take time to give highlights and kudos to our fellow staff, to members of our community, just an opportunity to share all of the amazing work that's happening here at the university. Just ending on a bright note, because it's been a tough past couple of weeks for a lot of us. So I'm going to open up the floor. If folks want to unmute yourself and share, I love to hear it. David.
I would just like to, oh,
go ahead.
Okay, I'd just like to give a shout out to Susie Santana Toro, and my manager Greg and Teresa Silsby, my previous manager. They constantly check in on me with my anxiety issues, and no matter what I say or do to try to get them to stop, they won't. So it is appreciated, and something good going on.
Kudos. We love Susie. Others on the call?
There's a couple in chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna chat up in here. We love David. Yes, kudos to everyone at OSP, Officers Sponsored Projects, who had to deal with a lot of stop work orders and funding issues the last 2 weeks. Yes, our Office of Sponsored Research had a lot going on and supporting our research community here on campus. So giving a huge shout out to them and all of the work they're doing. Awesome.
James Holman is retiring March 1st.
I can't like speak that into existence. That's not a thing. James Holman is never allowed to leave the university, right?
No.
I think that was a
No.
mistype.
No.
We did not vote on it.
We didn't vote. We did not approve. No. Congratulations, James. Like this is well-deserved retirement. You've put in so much amazing work for the university. You are already a lifelong honorary delegate of the forum, so that means that you're stuck with us. And even after retirement, you can come to meetings, and we want to hear your voice. And I know you're going to be missed here on campus. Yeah, definitely. David, you wanted to say something? David Barnett.
Yes, I wanted to give hey, how's everybody? I want
Hi.
to give a shout out to the grounds that took care of the property during the storm, and the housekeeping made it successful, and plus Mother Nature with the sun shining to help us a little bit, but everything went well.
It did indeed. North Carolina does not handle snow well, but UNC-Chapel Hill persevered thanks to all of our amazing grounds and housekeepers. So thank you and kudos to all of you all. Others? A kudos to all of you all as always, and a kudos to Matt Banks for all of his amazing work on the forum. He's the behind the scenes, and any chance I get, I want to give a shout out and a kudos to Matt Banks. So thank you, Matt, for everything. Okay, y'all. Anyways, I think that might be it. Do we want to adjourn?
This is Teresa. I make a motion to adjourn.
This is Arlene, a second.
Second.
Do I have any opposed to adjourning? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. We'll see you all soon.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Thank
Have
you.
the best weekend.
Enjoy the weather while we got it.
Take care, Katie. Thank you for the nice words.
Thanks, Matt. Take your time on getting the YouTube uploaded, given we're trying to test out the updating the captions and that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll send out the message next week, and yeah, let me know if you have any issues with it or need my help.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I love that we got out of here without anybody mentioning it's my birthday next week. Yes.
You never should have said anything because I'll send a whole email. Be like,
Boy.
feel
No.
Katie's email with like, and I'm gonna be like, I don't even know which day it is. So send her in a message every day. And then you're gonna have like 200 emails to go
No,
through.
don't do that.
I will.
All right, y'all. Have a good one. Thanks, everybody.
Hold on. Is the
What?
or the
I'm
news,
holding
the
on.
news people are still here? Never mind. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, folks.
Everybody else, I'm going to close the meeting down in about 1 minute. So go ahead and be aware of that. Okay, folks, I'm about to shut the meeting down. Take care, everyone.